The bearded agama is a lizard that even a novice terrarium hobbyist can get. Nature has endowed this creature with an amazing appearance and sufficient unpretentiousness for living at home. The homeland of the bearded agama is the Australian continent. At one time, the Australian authorities very strictly controlled the export of representatives of the local fauna, but nevertheless, the relatives of the agama got outside the mainland and began to breed successfully in other territories that were quite suitable for them in terms of habitat. The bearded agama is amazing, not only for its appearance, but also for the name directly associated with it. The Latin word pagona in translation just means the presence of a beard, and viticeps has an even more bizarre meaning, headband of bulbs. So the Latin name of the lizard indicates the presence of leathery spines around the ears, on the head and throat of the agama. These spikes mimic the beard. The British, because of this sign, even nicknamed the agama a bearded dragon, central bearded dragon. And another unique ability of the bearded agama is to change color when the lizard is frightened or worried. In this state, the bearded agama brightens and its paws acquire a bright yellow or orange hue. The color of the lizard can vary depending on the ambient temperature. Appearance. In another way, the bearded agama is also called the chase. This is a medium-sized lizard, its body is white and slightly flattened. And the same head, a bit like a triangle. In front of the neck of the bearded agama there are thorny scales, beard, located in a wedge. The same processes surround the corners of the mouth and ear openings. The bearded agama has rather strong paws of gray, brownish or dark tone with short clawed toes. The skin around the jaws is noticeably lighter. Spiny scales cover the inside of the belly between the front and hind legs. Bearded agamas are characterized by sexual dimorphism. Males are distinguished by a wider head and a thicker tail, especially at its base, around the hemipenis, the reproductive organ of lizards. The beard of males is also more visible and darker in color, especially during the mating season, while in females it is orange or beige. But it is not easy to determine the sex of a bearded agama, especially one that has not yet entered its breeding season. The standard length of these lizards is 40 to 60 centimeters. The tail length is approximately 40% of the body size. The agama's beard becomes especially noticeable when the lizard puffs up its throat and pushes the throat fold forward strongly. In this she is helped by the elongated processes of the hyoid bone, which protrude when the bearded dragon opens its mouth. The frilled lizard has a similar ability. On the sides of the body of the agama there are also spine-like processes in several rows. When a lizard is worried or prepares to defend itself, it kind of inflates its body, and these thorns are more widely distributed. The color of the back of a bearded agama can be green, bluish or with a yellow tint, and can also change depending on the mood of the lizard. Distribution and habitat. The bearded agama is an indigenous Australian animal. She lives mainly in the interior, rather than coastal areas of the mainland, in particular, in Queensland, New South Wales and northwest Victoria, as well as in the east of South Australia, and the southeast of the state with an interesting name, Northern Territory. The biotopes preferred by the bearded agama are mainly desert and semi-desert, rocky or covered with dry vegetation, thickets of bushes. The lizard lives on the ground and sometimes in trees. She is especially active during the day and at night, and in extreme heat she hides in holes that she digs herself or in other people's holes, as well as in stone heaps and under the roots of plants. The bearded agama is also looking for coolness in trees, in places that are well ventilated. Each lizard has its own territory, which it tries to keep. Behavior and lifestyle. The bearded agama's menacing appearance can be confusing. In fact, this creature, if tamed, is very affectionate, easy to handle and enjoys scratching its neck. However, during the mating season, males show a frightening outfit, they inflate their necks and protrude scales, which immediately noticeably darken. The lizard behaves in the same way when it defends itself. By the way, the bearded dragon is fearless enough. She is in no hurry to run away from the enemy, but tries to scare him. In addition to external changes during aggression, the bearded agama can snort, actively wiggle its tail, hiss and jump, squatting on its paws, which is very reminiscent of a frog. It is easy to determine the mood of the lizard by the color of the beard. The darker it is, the more the agama is worried. And in terrariums, you practically do not find bearded agamas with a long tail, although this is a natural sign of the animal. When several lizards are kept together, collisions are possible between them, in which the agamas bite off each other's tails. And although the place of injury soon heals, the tail itself, alas, never grows again. Therefore, experienced terrarium keepers try to keep bearded agamas separately, which is obtained only in well-equipped nurseries. Food. The diet of the bearded agama is mixed. From animal food these are various small vertebrates and invertebrates, and from plant food, leaves, shoots, fruits, and flowers of various plants. In captivity, bearded agamas happily eat crickets, cockroaches, mealworms and other insects. snails, bird eggs, and small rodents can also become a source of animal protein for lizards. And among the juicy food for the bearded agama, various grated vegetables and fruits are useful: carrots, apples, cabbage, pears, bananas, tomatoes, cucumbers, beans, lettuce and dandelion leaves. Breeders recommend putting this food in special low but wide bowls, and when the lizard is full, take them out of the terrarium. And yet, the main share in the diet of the bearded agama is taken by animal food. For young lizards, a similar feeding is recommended, only in smaller portions. The number of meals for a bearded agama should be at least once every 2 days, and it is better to diversify the foods given to her. The drinker must always have clean water. And to maintain the health of the bearded agama, it is recommended to periodically give special mineral supplements, for example, crushed egg shells, calcium powders, etc. By the way, you can mix mineral water in the drinking bowl with ordinary water. As for vitamins for the bearded agama, it is better to offer them to the lizard no more than once a month. You can also feed her with special feed for reptiles, but only in accordance with the instructions attached to them. And to maintain the health of the bearded agama, it is recommended to periodically give special mineral supplements, for example, crushed egg shells, calcium powders, etc. By the way, you can mix mineral water in the drinking bowl with ordinary water. As for the vitamins for the bearded agama, it is better to offer them to the lizard no more than once a month. You can also feed her with special feed for reptiles, but only in accordance with the instructions attached to them. And to maintain the health of the bearded agama, it is recommended to periodically give special mineral supplements, for example, crushed egg shells, calcium powders, etc. By the way, you can mix mineral water in the drinking bowl with ordinary water. As for the vitamins for the bearded agama, it is better to offer them to the lizard no more than once a month. You can also feed her with special feed for reptiles, but only in accordance with the instructions attached to them. Reproduction. Bearded agamas, like other lizards, are egg-laying creatures. They become capable of reproducing offspring 2 years after birth. In nature, bearded agamas make large clutches 9 to 24 eggs. They lay them in a hole dug by a female, and then bury her entrance. And after about 3.5 months, little agamas appear. At home, the reproduction of bearded agamas obeys certain rules. The mating season for lizards begins after the end of wintering. They are prepared for this by feeding them with special preparations with vitamin E. And when the males dress in a bright mating outfit, they are placed next to the females. Male bearded agamas also have their own ceremony of attracting girls. They show them the bright color of their necks, rise on their paws, and, as it were, nod their heads. And the females respond with similar nods and tail movements. Then comes the time of marriage persecution. The male of the bearded agama catches the female, and, grabbing her with his teeth, proceeds to mate. And after a month and a half, the females do the clutch. For this, girls with bearded agamas are planted in a special terrarium where they can dig a hole for a nest. The bottom of such a terrarium is abundantly covered with sand so that the female's burrow could be up to 40 centimeters deep. But the clutch does not remain in the nest. Then it is transferred to an incubator where it is kept at a temperature of about 28 degrees, sufficient for the offspring to hatch in a maximum of 3 months. If the temperature is slightly higher, then the small bearded agamas appear earlier. During the season, the bearded dragon lays eggs up to 2 times. And after a month and a half, the females do the clutch. For this, girls with bearded agamas are planted in a special terrarium where they can dig a hole for a nest. The bottom of such a terrarium is abundantly covered with sand so that the female's burrow can be up to 40 centimeters deep. But the clutch does not remain in the nest. Then it is transferred to an incubator where it is kept at a temperature of about 28 degrees, sufficient for the offspring to hatch in a maximum of 3 months. If the temperature is slightly higher, then the small bearded agamas appear earlier. During the season, the bearded dragon lays eggs up to 2 times. And after a month and a half, the females do the clutch. For this, girls with bearded agamas are planted in a special terrarium where they can dig a hole for a nest. The bottom of such a terrarium is abundantly covered with sand so that the female's burrow can be up to 40 centimeters deep. But the clutch does not remain in the nest. Then it is transferred to an incubator where it is kept at a temperature of about 28 degrees, sufficient for the offspring to hatch in a maximum of 3 months. If the temperature is slightly higher, then the small bearded agamas appear earlier. During the season, the bearded dragon lays eggs up to 2 times. Where they are kept at a temperature of about 28 degrees, sufficient for the offspring to hatch in a maximum of 3 months. If the temperature is slightly higher, then the small bearded agamas appear earlier. During the season, the bearded dragon lays eggs up to 2 times. Where they are kept at a temperature of about 28 degrees, sufficient for the offspring to hatch in a maximum of 3 months. If the temperature is slightly higher, then the small bearded agamas appear earlier. During the season, the bearded dragon lays eggs up to 2 times. How to keep Keeping a bearded agama in captivity is a fairly simple task, but some features should still be remembered. If we divide them into several types, then we get the rules relating to different aspects of the lizard's life. Start with your terrarium equipment. It is desirable that it be horizontal, with a volume of 400 to 500 liters. Young agamas can be placed in a smaller space, but over time it will become cramped for grown lizards. And in a glass terrarium, there must be good ventilation and not very high humidity, no more than 30%. For bedding, some experts advise against taking sand or small stones, as a bearded dragon can easily swallow them with food. But large stones will not work either, since the lizard needs to bury itself in the ground. Therefore, it is best to choose some kind of non-clumping filler, for example, specially made for lizards in zoological stores. Rodent filler may also work. The bearded agama is a thermophilic creature, so you should create ultraviolet lighting for it, for example, using special lamps for reptiles. And, of course, it is very important to provide the bearded agama with a suitable temperature. It would be nice to install some kind of heat source in the terrarium, next to which the lizard can warm up and find coolness in other corners. At night, the terrarium should keep at least 20 degrees. As additional heat sources, you can use, for example, heating mats, cables, warm stones. Stones are the most preferred option, since they are the same natural material that bearded agamas use in the wild. Water is very important for a lizard. Bearded agamas, accustomed to droughts, drink little. But in order to avoid dehydration, it is recommended to bathe the lizard a couple of times a week. And while bathing, she can drink. And, finally, like any initially wild creature, the bearded agama needs freedom at least sometimes. The lizard can be allowed to walk around the room, but only on condition that there are no others in it, possibly posing a threat to the reptile or capable of scaring it. A heat-loving agama should not be lowered to the floor so that it does not catch a cold. Better to let her move around the furniture. But it is not recommended to plant it on a fleecy carpet, since the pile can get tangled around the lizard's fingers and cause tissue necrosis. Price. The average bearded dragon cost is anywhere between $30 and $100 depending on its age. However, that only reflects the price of the beardy itself. When you consider the costs of their enclosure, necessary care supplies, and an initial vet visit, you're looking at an additional $300 to $600.